Are you trying to establish your brand as a thought leader? Start a podcast, invite industry experts to be guests on your show, and watch your brand become the prime resource for decision makers in your industry. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show. Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. Today is another episode in our 5 Things series where we're talking to guests about the 5 things that they can't live without at work and in life, sharing some of their favorite tools, resources, and tips for productivity. I'm joined today by Brian Carl. He's the Senior Director of Marketing over at Clarus Commerce. Brian, how's it going today, man?
Good, Logan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, let's dive right in. I mentioned productivity there at the start. Not everything that we're sharing is centered around just work productivity, but your first one kind of falls into that bucket. What's number 1 on your 5 things you can't live without, man?
For us at Clarus, it's Asana. So we do agile marketing as a team, and we've tried everything, all different sorts of apps for this. We've done Trello, we've gone as we've tried Jira, but we really found that Asana really gives us that blend of depth that we need and customization, whether we're using it for complicated launch of a new ebook or webinar, or just your daily blocking and tackling around launching blog posts and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you guys switch to Asana pretty recently?
We've been on it probably for about a year now, but we're a team of 5, and Jira was honestly just a little bit overcomplicated for what our needs were. So when we went to Asana, we found that it was sort of this right blend of being able to get everyone the information they need without a whole lot of setup for every new task that goes in there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Awesome. So number 1 for you is Asana. Number 2 is your notebook, or actually your notebooks. I'm really interested in this because as we've done just a few episodes in this series, several people have mentioned, the notebook they keep with them, or Justin Keller over at Terminus mentioned these specific postcards he gets to manage his to-do list. We talk a lot about tools for managing productivity and usually go straight to the digital, but you mentioned you've got like a system of notebooks that you use for different things that help you out, right?
It's ironic that my first thing was Asana, which is essentially a digital to-do list, but I take a lot of that and I bring it right to the offline world. I still find that when you write something down with your hand, it makes it more real, it makes it more memorable. So I use different notebooks for different things. I have ones that I use for journals. I have one that I use for just sort of like ideas and scratch notes, things that I'm trying to think through in my head. And then I use ones that are more of a bullet journal style thing for a to-do list.
Awesome. So do you normally just have a spot for each one, or carry all 3 with you at a regular time, and maybe keep 3 smaller ones so you can have one for each?
I have lots of different things there. At work, I have my notebook that I carry at every meeting. I also have one that I keep on my desk just for writing down different ideas and that kind of thing. I have another small notebook that I carry around with me most of the time. And I do a little bit on my phone here and there. But when I do the phone ones, I do try to transcribe them later onto paper when I have the time to do it.
Yeah, interesting, man. It seems like that's a common theme, and I've been doing more of that, and it has helped me out to some degree. And I like that idea of having a spot for kind of those backlog ideas, and then just your daily to do, and not kind of mixing the two, because that's been my struggle with taking it to the offline. So I might need to add one more notebook to my mix based on your recommendation, man. Let's talk about the next one. You mentioned running shoes are number 3 on your top 5. Tell us a little bit about what your top thing is there.
Honestly, originally when you asked this question, I was going to put my Garmin watch because that's where I do all my running, I get all my data, and I can understand that stuff. But the truth is, it's really just about getting outside or getting to the gym. I find that I do it in the mornings, and it is sort of meditative for me. I've tried a lot of meditation. I've tried these things, and none of that's totally stuck. But for me, like getting up and just getting outside has created a sort of routine for me on a place to just be alone and to just be able to think for a little while and sort of disengage from everything else. And that practice itself has really helped me. So as much as I love the Garmin watch and that kind of thing, and the data is amazing and I can get really nerdy about that kind of stuff, the act of the actual being outside and being alone and running and thinking
Yeah.
has become integral to like what I do.
Yeah, I love that number 3 for you just became running itself, not the technology, because of what that allows you to do. Do you have a favorite brand of running shoes? If there are any other avid runners out there or aspiring runners, I know my friend Ethan Butte over at Bomb just swears by Brooks when it comes to his running shoes. Do you have a preference there, or something that folks who are maybe getting into that rhythm a little bit more regularly should look out for?
I don't have a favorite. I definitely bounce around. Definitely, I can be a sale buyer when it comes to these things, but I use Brooks a lot for training, and I use some Nike ones more for like racing and things like that. So I have different ones based on the activity. If I'm trying to go fast, if I'm going slow, I do mix it up a little bit.
I like it. Awesome, man. Well, number 4 on your top 5 things was interesting to me because I'm kind of one of the lone Google Android guys here on the Sweetfish team. James makes fun of me for turning every group message thread green and that sort of thing. But in a world where more people that I talk to have Alexa or another smart speaker, I've been all in on Google. I've got a Google Home myself. You put Google Home on one of your top 5 things here, right?
Yes, sir. So for us, me and my wife use Google Home constantly in our house. And the most common thing is just music. I love music. And to be able to have music play throughout the house is just a really, it fills the house up in a way that is indescribable in a lot of ways. But it's also become a big part of our sort of daily routine. We share shopping lists through it. The amount of times that someone's talking to it just to add some milk to the shopping list is happens on a daily basis, as well as events, reminders, just simple things like, get the laundry out of the laundry machine in an hour. That stuff has become a really, really daily routine for us. So we use Google Home constantly.
Awesome, man. I haven't used it for the to-do list or the shopping list. Does that go into like a Google Keep checklist, or where does that push that to? Because I might have to check that out.
There are different ways you could set it up. It used to sort of force you to go into Google Express, but now it's more open. You can use Google Keep, and we do that to share these kind of things.
Nice.
To make sure we're a little bit more efficient with this stuff.
Awesome. Productivity and efficiency on the home front as well. We're getting tips for that today. I love it, Brian. Your last one has been a common theme on our first few episodes here of the 5 Things series, and that is your favorite audio listening apps. You've got 2 here that make up number 5 on your list, Audible and PocketCasts, right?
Yeah, and I put both of them on there because at the end of the day, it's more about just engaging in something to continue learning and thinking. I have 3 young kids, and it might be why I also like getting out in the morning and running, but there's not always time to sit down and actually read a book. That time moves very quickly. So I find that when I'm doing things like running or driving or just cleaning the dishes, being able to engage in an audiobook or to be able to listen to a podcast that gets you thinking and keeps you current has become an invaluable part of like my daily routine.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of Pocket Casts, actually. That is my go-to app for listening to podcasts. And not just because I have an Android phone in my Google Pixel, but because I've seen other iPhone users use Pocket Casts as well. Are there some specific things on why you listen to podcasts with that app in particular that you like?
I'll be honest, I've been on Pocket Cast for a couple of years now. I haven't looked at what's new out there. It works. It just works for me. Everything I want in a podcast app is there.
Yeah, absolutely. I like some of the things that I've tried Google Podcasts. I've tried Spotify. I like the way that podcasts are surfacing up in Spotify's UX, and maybe they'll get me to switch eventually. But Pocket Cast has some unique things that are cool. For a show like ours that has over 1,300 episodes, you can look at B2B Growth and search, and it will search the headlines and the show notes. And sometimes with podcasts, especially if they have a large back library, it's tough to find if you want to see if they have an episode on a certain thing. So I like the way that they're addressing podcast discoverability. Pocket Cast is not a sponsor of the show. There's no affiliate links, but I do just personally use that app for my own podcast consumption because
as you might imagine, I listen to a lot of podcasts. But just in general, back to your point, I love that you mentioned running, doing the dishes, and driving. Those are kind of my 3 times to listen to audio content as well. A little bit different. Walking the dog, a little bit less than running, doing the dishes, and then driving as well. So I'm right in line with you there, man. Well, Brian, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate you sharing some of the things that you can't live without to give other people some recommendations and some tips as they go about their own journey every day. If anybody listening to this would like to stay connected with you, reach out, LinkedIn, what's the best platform to stay in touch with you, man?
Sure, yeah. Brian Carl on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and then our company's claruscommerce.com.
Awesome, Brian. Thanks so much for joining me. This was a fun conversation, man.
Thanks, Logan. You too. Good to talk to you.
Hey there, this is James Carberry, founder of Sweetfish Media and one of the co-hosts of this show. For the last year and a half, I've been working on my very first book. In the book, I share the 3-part framework we've used as the foundation for our growth here at Sweetfish. Now, there are lots of companies that have raised a bunch of money and have grown insanely fast, and we've featured a lot of them here on the show. We've decided to bootstrap our business, which usually equates to pretty slow growth. But using the strategy outlined in the book, we're on pace to be one of Inc.'s fastest growing companies in 2020. The book is called Content-Based Networking: How to Instantly Connect with Anyone You Want to Know. If you're a fan of audiobooks like me, you can find the book on Audible, or if you like physical books, you can also find it on Amazon. Just search Content-Based Networking or James Carberry, Carbary, in Audible or Amazon, and it should pop right up.